Please feel free to participate today and ask any questions that you need to. I'm open, so it's not going to interrupt me at all if anybody interrupts or asks a question during today. Totally fine with any of that. So to start off, I'm Emily Fry. I'm going to be your presenter today. Oh, I love that. It was amazing to hear all the different stories of how they became teachers. I agree, totally. So we're going to be talking about today is how to become a paraeducator and kind of what that means. So I just want to kind of start us off, and I want you to think about a moment that was kind of the most significant year that you had back in school, or the most important year. Maybe it was one good teacher that really stood out to you. Maybe it was just one of those pivotal years. And I just want you to kind of put it in the chat if you can. You can just write third grade, sixth grade, whatever you want to. And you can write your statement on why. Otherwise, if you want to share it, that would be amazing too. But you can just write what grade too. So I'll give you a moment for that. And preparing for this presentation, I was really having these reflective moments of, how I kind of started. And I actually started myself as a paraeducator. So I was really kind of walking down this road of memory lane. So it was really neat to really go through these processes. So even Jennifer this morning, really thinking about what is our why. So that's definitely something that I want you guys to think about today as well. So I'm just going to kind of look in the chat. So any year that really stood out for you in school, maybe it was second grade, maybe it was seventh grade. Thanks, Candace. Any other ones? First grade, sixth grade, love it. It really inspired me to pursue a career in teaching because I love it. First through fourth, that's amazing. High school algebra teacher, third grade, yep. So we all have these moments, right, that stick out with us. Freshman government was one of the only teachers helped me. Oh, that's amazing. I love stories like that. Second grade, first grade, kindergarten, a lot of the primaries in here. I love it. That was very similar. I did have an amazing first grade teacher too. So for me, the one that really stood out, I was thinking of fourth grade. So I had this amazing teacher that was from Wisconsin, and I just remember her being so pretty. She was so kind. She was so gentle. And for one of our things, she actually gave us all journals because the class was really starting to do these writing prompts and all of that. So she gave us out these journals, and we could, either do free writing prompts, or she would give us what to write about for that day. And then she told us that she'd be responding to us. So I remember thinking like, okay, like I'm going to get, great job, good job writing, something like that. But she really, what happened there? Okay, back. So my fourth grade teacher, so she would write all these thoughtful, meaningful responses. And she really took the time to, either reflect on my writing, something that was going on in the classroom. I remember her writing like, you're such a great reader, all of these things. And I didn't realize how much her words actually stood with me and really stuck in there. Even throughout college, like anytime I was lacking confidence or anything like that, I would constantly hear her words in my head. And I was just like, man, this is so neat to have that much of an impact, So that was really something that I had wanted to pursue in my teaching career as well. So fast forward my first year of teaching, I'm a special education teacher. So I actually started with third and fourth grade students. So I did the exact same thing. I told them my story with my fourth grade teacher. I gave them all their journals. I told them that they could write anything that they wanted to me. And we just had these little secret conversations that was just so neat. So it was just something that really stood out in my mind that I then carried on in my career. And I ended up having my same kids actually 3 years in a row. So they had ended up telling me when they were in sixth grade how special that was to be able to have that relationship and that constant communication with me. So let me see here. So I'm actually going to start sharing my screen so you guys can see. All right, so this is just a little bit about me. I threw in some fun pictures there for you. So I started off as a paraeducator when I was 18 years old. I had actually started like 1 week after my 18th birthday. And before that, I had actually worked for the City of Inclusion program, which was for special needs students. So I had had my same little boy that for 5 years in a row, and he had nonverbal autism. So it's something that I just have worked in special education for so long now. So then my mom worked also in education. She was a nurse, but she had worked for Heart District. So it was just kind of something that I was very used to. So when I started when I was 18 years old, I actually started as a long-term sub. As with Heart District, they did a proficiency exam. So they only offered it twice per year. So I had just missed that cutoff. So my other option was to be a long-term sub. So I started long-term subbing for the district. And once I was able to take my proficiency exam, then I was able to apply for those paraeducator jobs. So I started off as a one-on-one in junior high school. Then I went to be a one-on-one for a high school student, a couple different high schools, actually multiple. And then I started off being an instructional assistant in a mild to moderate classroom for special needs. And then I was a clerk typist, and then transferring to an IEP coordinator at Bowman High School. So those were all paraeducator jobs, and that was in 8 years, and I did so many different ones. So within that field, there's just so many different avenues that you can then go into. So I was also working as a paraeducator while I was going to school. So once I got to Bowman High School, that's kind of really when I realized, I'm like, okay, this is clearly what I'm supposed to be doing. I need to go back to college and get my degrees. So when I was putting myself through school, we also had a program for Heart District to where they would reimburse you some of your expenses. So for your books and for college, things like that, as long as you showed that you were progressing in some field of education, they actually gave me reimbursement monies for that, for some of those classes. So that honestly really helped me, prepare for that financial burden as well. So a lot of districts do offer some of those programs. So that's just definitely something to think about and look into. I think working in a school, especially if you're planning to be a teacher or anything in education, the sooner that you can start and get that experience, the better. I can't tell you how much it prepared me already for my first year of teaching way back then. Just being in the classroom for all those years, getting to see all the different behaviors. Not only that, I was also observing the teacher the entire time. I'm in the classroom, so I'm getting to see how, they're reacting to certain situations, how they're teaching everything. So it was just such a great level of experience that I didn't, fully understand or fully respect until I was actually finished. Fast forward, once I got my credentials, I got hired on with Newhall School District. So I had switched from the older ones to now working with littles, which was, a whole different ball game. And I just loved every minute of it. I've actually taught, I taught for actually a month and a half in Costa Rica this past summer, volunteering. I love now every summer I try to do a different teaching role, whether it's, Costa Rica, I did Thailand. My little girl that you'll see her picture on there, she's from Africa, the one that I actually teach on Zoom. So I have her 3 days a week that I teach. The top right is my little kiddos in Costa Rica, and same with the bottom left. This was just this past summer in Costa Rica. Picture here in the middle with my students. That was actually from my very first year of teaching. It's just one of those years that stood out so much to me. So that's, kind of my focus that I always have to go back and think of. So currently right now, I'm a teacher on special assignment, which we call a TOSA for special education. So now I get to train all of our new special ed teachers for Newhall School District. And I also kind of go through and working on our curriculum development and things like that. So this quote here, Nelson Mandela, amazing. Education is the most powerful weapon with which you can change the world. This I've had up hanging in my classroom since I very first started. I just remind myself daily of, what power we have to impact that generation and a society. Jennifer's words this morning I loved, and her saying that education makes strong communities. And I truly believe that we as educators have the power and responsibility now to let students know that they can be anything that they want in the world too. We are in such a unique time in this world as well that it's just, we have such a good power. And with all the social media influence and all of that other stuff, education right now, if we can be that inspiration for those students that they need so bad, that's where it's at. You guys come into play huge for paraeducators, I can't even tell you. So let me kind of talk about what a paraeducator is exactly. So it's a school or agency employee. I put agency because sometimes when a school can't hire an employee, they have an agency that they go through, which is what we do for Newhall. And that kind of, helps us get numbers that we need because we are a little bit short-staffed right now. These employees support instruction, they do supervision, classroom management, and you see at the bottom there, a miracle worker. Nothing short of a miracle worker when I say that. I can tell you from experiencing both ends, both me being an instructional assistant back then and then having my teaching job now to where I had my own instructional assistants, they are truly, absolutely miracle workers. So I put some quotes up there. Truth is that it's honestly one of the most important jobs in education. For my district, we're currently in a shortage of paraeducators, and there is a ton of openings for Palmdale, tons of openings for Lancaster. You guys heard this morning for the teaching positions as well, like 170. I mean, there's just a crazy amount of openings right now. So for my district, like I said, we're in a shortage. We had our special education meeting last week, And it was brought up so many times that we need to have these spots filled, because it just showed us, now that we see how it is without paraeducators, even more so what an important role that is that we need in the classrooms. Hopefully we can continue to get that support in place. Hopefully some of you guys in the future, that's what you're looking towards. That would just be amazing, because you are so needed. We cannot do what we do in the classroom without this role. I literally put on there, behind every great teacher is a great paraprofessional. I could not mean that more wholeheartedly. That is my paraprofessional that I've had for several years. She just moved away, so and I'm not in the classroom anymore, so I let her go. It's okay. But she was just an amazing human being, and she was I had two, one for morning, one for afternoon. But she just inflicted so much change and so much power with these kids that even when she came back to visit a few years later, all of them ran up to her like she was truly just a member of the family. Okay, so I just want to kind of talk about now the requirements for most districts. First off, you're going to need your high school diploma or equivalent to be a paraeducator. Some districts, you may need your CPR certification or first aid. That depends. Sometimes you might need it before you get hired, but sometimes it's after you get hired. With that, I did mine through Red Cross, I think, when I first had to do it. Ever since then, I've done it online. It's just super easy and convenient that way. I mean, look at us now. It's natural for us. So that could be a requirement that's for your district. The next one there states that you must pass a proficiency exam. So that part I'm going to go in a little bit further. I did note on there that some districts use the CBEST, which would be even that much more greater of an impact for you guys to go to those CBEST test prep sessions that Renee told us about this morning. So why the need for a proficiency exam? So it's actually the law. After the No Child Left Behind Act and Elementary and Secondary Act were passed, it was a requirement now. It just means with the No Child Left Behind Act, it was a local education agency that receives any funding from a Title I site, which just means that they help disadvantaged students meet state academic content and performance standards. So any paraprofessional that's actually hired on or after 2002 who's supported by those Title I funds, that just means they assist in the instruction. They have to demonstrate proficiency in at least one of these areas. So that means that you could possess your AA degree, associate's degree or higher, a minimum of those 48 semester college units, or passing that proficiency exam. So in that exam, it usually will cover reading comprehension, basic writing, and math. I wrote on there's a ton of resources for these. One resource is ParaPro, which gives you 30 sample questions in each domain. So 30 questions for reading, 30 questions for writing, and then 30 questions for math. LAUSD offers sample questions along with a ton of resources as well. You can literally just type in Google Paraeducator Proficiency Exam Test Prep, and a ton of stuff will come up. So it basically covers questions of reading comprehension. So what that looks like is they may give you a passage. It might ask you to inference, or it might ask you, what did that author mean by what they said? With writing, it could be like errors in writing. It'll give you a sentence and then just give you a multiple choice option for which errors are in that sentence. And then math, there's going to be like basic addition, subtraction. It might have questions related to a number line, perimeter, things like that. But like I said, there's so many different resources out there, and that CBEST test prep would be such a great way to go about it as well. The time allotment usually varies by district, but to complete the test, it's usually about 2 to 3 hours that they give you. So that's just, something to keep in your head when you're thinking about that. This one is for Title I schools. Like I said, they're the ones that help out with disadvantaged students. So these are the requirements for those. And then the next one will go through the non-Title I sites. So it's almost the same. It's just the high school diploma and that passing of that proficiency exam. So districts can create their own, or like I said, they can use the CBEST. For my district, when I took it, because I took it for Hart District first, they had their own proficiency exam. And it wasn't hard at all, I promise you. So they had that exam. And then also when I was getting my teaching credentials, we had to take the CBEST. And CBEST, even if you're going to be a sub or anything like that, it's just going to be one of those exams that you're going to have to probably take in the future. So it's better to get it out of the way now and use that test prep that you guys have for those sessions that were mentioned this morning would be awesome. So now I'm going to talk about the different types of paraeducator jobs. There's so many different kinds. Like I said, I worked in 8 years doing paraeducator jobs, and there were so many different roles that I had. I think maybe the longest was 1 year that I had for one job, because it was just, there was always such a revolving door, and it was such like, you can do this one, and then if you got enough hours, then you could do this next one. Then I was able to be an IEP coordinator, like I said, for Bowman. And that was really where I got so much experience of actually looking through those IEPs, which is an individualized education program for each special ed student. That was really the exposure that I got to make me understand at very young age, going through my teaching credentials and all of that. It just made everything make a lot more sense. The most common one that we see for districts, especially for mine, is special day class instructional assistant. So those are your students that are in a specialized day class for the entire day. They have a special education teacher. Those classrooms all have instructional assistants or paraeducators. I'll use that term simultaneously because it's the same one for us. In that though, we have a lot of different classifications. So even for our mild moderate programs, there's different classifications of instructional assistants because some have different job descriptions. Like our mod severe program, we might need diaper changes. That might have a student that has more behavioral management, things like that. So with that, the job descriptions change for each one. And I know for high school, like we kind of label our special ed classrooms like an SDC 5, SDC 3. Those are all different classifications in special ed. So it could be an emotionally disturbed classroom. It could be a mod severe classroom. It could be a high functioning autism program. So all of those actually have their own instructional assistant job requirements and job duties. So that's why there's such a broad array for you to choose from. Along with that, besides a classroom assistant, you can also be a one-on-one, which I did this as well. So a one-on-one is just basically that's written into a child's IEP, which is that individualized education program that every special ed kids has. That was just a point where you are specific to that one student. The student might need help with writing, the student might need help with behavior, anything like that. You're that child's one-on-one, so you follow them everywhere. So if they're mainstreaming in a general education classroom, you actually go and follow them to that classroom. So a little bit different than an instructional assistant. Instructional assistant, you're everybody's helper. You're there to help everybody out. That one-on-one, you're just tied to that one student. And then there's also a resource assistant. So this one we actually had, I taught 4 years in SDC before I moved on to being a resource teacher. And when I started off as a resource teacher, we had an assistant that we got to use. So she was amazing. She would help me run my groups. She would help me work one-on-one with a student that was kind of needing a help in one specific area that I couldn't reach at one time. So she was just my right hand to go to everything. When I had those instructional assistants for SDC, it looks a little bit different. My assistant would even help out with our reward system. So we had a point system that was going on in the classroom. She would help me say, oh, so-and-so earned a point for this. She would update that system for me. She would help me run groups. So I had a station where I was working with a small group of students. She had a rotation where she was working with a small group of students. And then I had an independent station where we had like an iPad if they were working on their educational programs that way. And then when we would rotate every 15 minutes. So it just helped out so much. I can't even tell you, to be able to have another person in there that was able to also teach and lead groups and all of that. I was preparing everything. So I just got to show her what, she was going to be doing with the students that day. So there's no prepping part for years. That's us to do as a teacher. And then, you guys are getting to lead those groups for us. And it's just such a help. I can't even tell you. So your duties could be assisting with classroom, anything with groups and rotations. Like I said, you could be walking around just helping students. Classroom management tasks, like I had said before too. It just really depends on the teacher, because you're really looking for them for that support and that guidance on what you're going to be doing in the classroom. The instructional assistants are never alone with the students. So your classroom teacher will always be there to support you, always be there to help you. They're the one who's leading the classroom, so you don't have to worry about that part of it. I used to tell my instructional assistants, it's also like kind of getting to be the fun aunt. Like you kind of get to go in there and, you're getting to play with the kids and all of that. But as the teacher, they still have to do that whole, classroom management piece. That's leading everybody, teaching the class, all of that. But then the instructional assistant just really gets to support in that role. But they also sometimes get to follow the kids out for lunchtime, for recess. So they really have a special, unique bond with the students because they get to spend some of that free time with them too. And they're around them so much. And, they really get to be kind of an extra teacher. I always would introduce them that way. I was like, oh my gosh, you guys are so lucky. You have 3 teachers in here. And, we would always go about it that way because I wanted to see them. I wanted the students to see them as equals. And I wanted to make sure that they knew that they could go to them for anything as well. And that really empowered a lot of my instructional assistants too, to know that we were all in this together. There's not a hierarchy. It's nothing like that. You are the same teacher that I am doing. So that was really kind of the role that I took on for my classroom. For our assistants, that's why I talked about those classifications. So ours were already kind of classified in that kind of way. So multi-tier, does that just mean that you guys are doing different roles into one? Every district will do those differently. Like I said, with ours, we had, already broken down those job descriptions beforehand. So ours were very descriptive to each program. So with our emotionally disturbed program, our job description looks very different than like a mild moderate program would look. Our mod severe classifications are very different as well. So when you're applying for those very first jobs too, what we found out a lot with ours, a lot of them don't, they're not transferable. So we can't have a mod severe instructional assistant then transfer over to be a classroom assistant. So they're two different jobs completely. So what we would do is they would apply for whichever obviously one that they had done for that year. And then the next year, if they had wanted to do a transfer, they would actually submit a new application for that other position. Just kind of depending on what that looks like for your district, it's different. So like our mod severe with our job descriptions too, they changed diapers. It's a lot more the classroom looks a lot differently too. And then with our mild moderate programs, they're usually running rotations. They're usually running groups. So those just look a little bit different in each program. Experience being an instructional assistant, I can't even tell you, it was so valuable. I felt like going into teaching my first year, I had already had so much experience. And even during my interviews, they would, ask me, how would you handle a kid with this kind of behavior? What would you do in this situation? I had already dealt with almost all of those scenarios, getting all of that experience when I was an instructional assistant. I had worked with the resource population already. I was with SDCs already. I had already done mod severe. So I had really done almost all the ranges of the spectrum that we see in special education. So going into being a special ed teacher, it just was hand in hand. I felt like I had already, like I said, been a teacher for so long because I had already been in that role for so long. So I can't even tell you, if you guys can do that now, that is where the money's, that's literally the goal. If you can be, going to school at the same time. I was working 7 hours a day as an instructional assistant, and then I'd go to classes at night. So my classes were literally from 6 to 10 p.m. Monday through Thursday, every single week. And that was what I was doing because I just knew in my head, like, this is what I needed to do. And I knew that this is the route that I was going to be taking in life. So for me to, put myself through college, I had to work the full time. I couldn't just, go to school. I didn't have that fortunate, event. So for me, I just wanted a position that was going to be meaningful. I didn't want to just go to a job that I knew I was just going to be clocking in and out and it wasn't going to be following me. I really wanted to maximize my time working and making sure that I was, making the steps that I wanted to in my career, and being an instructional assistant just led perfect hand to that. Like I said, walking into it, I just felt like, and even my district had told me like, wow, you already have so much experience. You're so young. I started teaching when I was 24, but I had already, been doing this since I was 16. So it was almost already 10 years walking into teaching. So it was really, a unique position to be in. And if you guys can do that, I urge you. And there's so many openings. Every district that you look for, you can be 5 minutes from your house, wherever you want to be at. I guarantee you will find a job. There is just a huge need for paraeducators right now. We have such a shortage, like I said, for our district alone. We're talking about increasing benefits, increasing pay. Like, we're really trying to stay competitive because we know how valuable those positions are, and we know that it is so needed in the classroom. Once I finished my teaching credentials, my first year of teaching, I was so overwhelmed. I decided to take on my first master's degree. I don't know why, but it is what it is. And that's what I did my first year of teaching. Then my second year of teaching rolled around and I started to do my second master's degree. I'm addicted to education. It's a problem. My family members know it. My friends know it. I'm now in my doctorate program for educational psychology. I think I will always be a lifelong learner. So I totally get, if you can focus on school, that would be absolutely ideal. What is the paraeducator to student ratio in mild to moderate classes versus moderate to severe? Let me talk about that. So for mild moderate, you are going to naturally have more students in that classroom. It's usually ranging between 10 to 15. For our districts, we don't like to do more than 15, and it usually isn't happen. If that's the case, we actually bring on another teacher, and then we kind of adjust our grade levels as to that. With special education, it's usually multiple grade levels, always, for us at least. So we at least have 2 grade levels, sometimes 3 in one classroom. So what that means is that teacher is now teaching, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th graders. You are that much more vital in that classroom, because the only way that she can or he can run rotations is if there's an assistant in there to really help break up those grade levels as well. So for mild moderate, like I said, 10 to 15 usually. Sometimes I think the average is usually around 12. That's usually what we had growing into it. You always had maybe one kid transfer, one kid coming in. There's kind of a revolving door when we see special ed, because once school starts, we also know that those general education students, they start to come up later on in the year that they might need more support. If they move to a special day class, that's what that looks like. So we always have that kind of, knowledge that we're going to be getting a couple more students, or a couple might be moving. Now, when we look at moderate to severe classes, that's a little bit different. You have a lot smaller classes. The way that ours looks like, we have one school that does moderate to severe. One classroom, we have 4 students. The other classroom, there's 6. The other classroom, there's 5. So it's very, very small. It's usually, we try to keep it under 10 because those needs are so significant. Also with those classrooms, because we have those significant need of those students, they usually always have either a health aide or a one-on-one or somebody that's already tied to them. We also have a BSS, which is a behavioral specialist. So if we have a student with behaviors, they also might have that tied to them. It also creates a lot of adults in the classroom. So those smaller class sizes are definitely ideal, because sometimes you might have a one-to-one for almost every kid in that classroom. So it's definitely, we need to keep it as smaller, because it gets a little intense when you have, let's say, 8 kids in your classroom and you also have 8 one-on-ones, and then you have a teacher, and then you have a speech pathologist that might be coming in to do push-in services, things like that. But definitely we like to keep ours under 10. So definitely, I personally haven't seen, this is my 15th year in education. For my district, I've been teaching for 7 years, and we haven't seen more than 8 be in that mod severe class. So thank you for that question. It's a really good one to have. Now, I will say for the mild moderate, for us, it's a rule. If we get over 15 students in one classroom, that actually means that we get 2 instructional assistants now. So that would mean that, for ours is split up for an AM aide and a PM aide, but now I would have 2 AM aides and 2 PM aides, because having more than 15 students in one classroom for special ed is very difficult, as some of you might know that have worked in that field already. So we do have that nice, cushion to where we will get 2 instructional assistants instead of 1. I know the pay is low. That is why they are, I think, really trying to rethink that. And agencies too, if we have to go through an agency for a school district, it's double the money, because now you're having to pay that agency then to find that person. So we really are trying to avoid that process. The only way that we can do that is increasing, the pay, the benefits, the things that are drawing to somebody to a job. It's really hard to see, you're starting off making $14 an hour, and you can also go to McDonald's, you can go to Target. I completely understand that. So that is definitely something that we are looking into from our district, especially. That is literally something that we know is vital. We have experienced it without paraeducators in the classroom, and we know it is not something that we can handle. So they are doing everything in their power. Those decisions have to go before the board, things like that. So it does take time. But please know that districts are well aware, and they are trying to make the changes that they need to, because we need those people. What kind of advice would you give to someone preparing for a paraeducator interview or teacher interview? Totally. So with these interviews, a lot of it go through the scenarios. So if you were, experiencing a difficult student in classroom, what would you do? What strategies might you use? Things like that. So what I used to do is I literally would prepare index cards, and I would think of my hardest situations that I had to deal with. You can translate over to your own kids, might be a niece and nephew, any family members that you've gotten to deal with in the past as well. I literally would think of the hardest experience that I thought, like, man, that really tested me, but I still worked out okay. And I would just think of like those really hard scenarios of like when you had to really deal with it and problem solving, and what you did to actually move it forward, or what you did to resolve it. That would be a great thing to do. Also, they're always going to want to talk about your why. Why do you want to do this? Why are you here? We talked about it with Jennifer this morning. Your why is so important. So make sure that's really a kind of grounded in there too. So, like, why do you want to work with kids? It's a tough job. I'm not going to lie. You guys all know it too. So why do you want to do this? Like, we all want this, deep down, like, I want to impact, I want to make a change, and I want to do it for my students, and I want to do it for the teachers, something like that. Whatever you can do, just really think of, why are you doing this, and what do you want out of it? Other ones might be, how do you deal with your colleagues? That's been a really big thing for us as a district. We want to make sure that that everybody can work together. We all have to collaborate together, even teachers. How well do you work with teachers? It's the same thing. This is not a one-man show. Education is not and will not ever be a one-man show. We are all in this together. It takes a team. So I think they would really want to see, how well do you work with others? How can you cooperate? How can you all collaborate together? Definitely like taking student data, things like that might be of interest as well. With our instructional assistants now, especially with behaviors or anything like that, you might be required to take data on some students, like how often is a student engaging in a certain type of behavior, elopement, things like that. That might also be a really good thing to bring up as well. And what's great about that is that your teachers too are going to be very specific. So what I'm going to read that last part too. So what we can do for our district at least, so now we have district BCBAs, which are those top level, they used to be behaviorists. So now we have our district BCBAs actually training on just data collection alone. So every 2 weeks, our BCBAs meet with our support staff as well as our behaviorists, and they get those trainings just on that data collection. We ran into those same issues that you're talking about there with legally and all of that other stuff. It was kind of, what do you report on? What behavior is considered a behavior that you would actually want to take the data for. So our BCBA works every 2 weeks. Like I said, they actually have data collection sheets, and every teacher that works with those students or what have you, we actually have a full data collection sheet that we go through, and it'll be very specific to behaviors that we're targeting or we're looking for, hitting other students, eloping, things like that. They're listed very clearly on those data collection, and then it's also within that time frame. So not only do we want to see the behavior, but we also want to see that frequency. So the behaviorist or whoever is going to be working with that student, those data collection sheets are imperative. And we literally have ours out in the classroom, and we put it on top of a filing cabinet. Anytime one of us sees those behaviors, for teachers, we do it as well. We'd run right over, make just one tally for the column. So in order for really to get those quality data collections, you need to have one of those sheets to answer your question. So it really is going to be very specific in what that behavior that you're looking for and what that time frame is in there, if that makes sense. And also for that note, those sheets were not being shared with parents. Parents were actually getting a different sheet because we wanted that communication to look a lot different. We don't just want to hand a parent with a bunch of tally marks for hitting other students. We want to actually explain what was going on in that day and like what actually, that child was doing. Maybe they did a great job in their rotation, but then they had a really hard time transitioning. We honestly write down in a little comment section on one of our behavior logs and just say, hey, we always give at least 2 positives, because if always there's a negative, we want at least 2 positives for us. And then we would just say anything that they needed help throughout that day or anything like that. So thank you for asking that question. That's a great one. This one, like I said, your why is so important. So why be a paraeducator? I kind of wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on here too. I love that quote below. Alone we can do so little, together we do so much. This is so true in education. I can't do the change that I need to make in a classroom without a village. It's just not possible, especially when you're dealing with special education. It just, like I said, it takes an absolute village in here. So I want you guys to think about your why. Like, why do you want to be a paraeducator? Especially those of you that are going through school. Why do you want this to be, your avenue right now? If you guys want to share out, you can put it in the chat if you'd like. I like that too. That's totally fine. And then I can stop sharing my screen so I can see you guys. Said that because when I started my very first year of teaching, my instructional assistant at the time had already been doing this for, I think it was her 21st year. So when she came to me, she had helped me out so much. I can't even tell you. Like, I walked into a classroom blank. There was nothing on the walls. I was working in high school at the time. And then I'm switching to these little ones that I don't know. I'm looking at their chairs and I'm like, these aren't big enough to fit a student in here. It's so different. The fact that she was able to be there and she walked me through every step of the way. Not only was she like the queen of bulletin boards, because I didn't know that was a thing for elementary school, because I'm not in high school. So she was able to show me so much. And she had actually shared with me saying that she had wanted to be a teacher. She ended up having 3 or 4 kids, and it was just too hard to go back to school and all of that. So she said this was the closest thing that she could do to teaching. And I let her run with it. I told her, I was like, you are my teacher in this classroom with me as well. And when she had her groups, I can't even tell you, she made a world of difference for those kids. And she told me at the end of the day, this is why she does what she does. She doesn't need to work anymore, but she only came back because she knew what a difference that she was making. And that also helped her fulfill her own need of, being that teacher. It was just in a little bit different role. So yeah, I love that. If, like I said, if you're doing it when you're going to school too, that is awesome. A couple classes at a time. If they're at night, they're online. My program that I'm doing right now, it's all online. I just, it's a little bit at a time, whatever you can do. Let me see. I love working with kids. This is a great stepping stone to teaching my own class. Absolutely. Like I said, the perfect stepping stone, because you are already going to walk into that classroom knowing so many strategies, so many other techniques to use. It's going to be amazing. I would like to be a teacher educator that I wanted as a child and make children excited about learning. Yes, my overall goal is to teach at the college grade level. That is amazing, Carmen. Thank you so much for sharing. And yes, we want kids excited about learning. When I walk into, like, especially with a kindergarten and first grade class, the teachers that I'm mentoring, I told them, I was like, to you, I'm going to look like I'm really silly right now. But I was like, I guarantee you, to these kids, I'm going to be the most animated and fun and all of this stuff, because they match your energy. I walk in that classroom and I make everything a game. We're having a good time. We're having fun, because it's contagious. It's so hard for a kid to sit with a straight face when I'm making faces and being silly and, doing all these funny noises. And then I'm singing, and I'm not a singer, you guys. It's not a thing I do, but I'm singing up there and they are just eating up every part of it. And the motivation and the engagement that you get from that is incredible. Like I love, I love what I do anyway, but then on top of that, you see the other kids love it and you see them excited. That's what drives me. When I walk in that classroom, I'm like, I want you guys to be excited too. And they do. And it's amazing. So I love that. Thank you, Carmen. I'm just going to share my screen one more time, because I know we are out of time. I just wanted you guys to get my email. So this is something you can reach out to me for anything that you guys need. Okay, so if, like, teacher tips, interviews, anything like that, you guys can please feel free to email me. I love helping. This is what I do. So if you have any questions at all, please let me know. And thank you guys so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And good luck on your journey. I can't wait to hear about it. I hope I get to hear about it. You're going to do amazing things, and I can't wait to see it.
Emily, thank you so much for sharing your experiences and sharing such useful information. And thank you everyone for attending.
Thank you.